Yeah, well, you can.
I mean, it would be.
Well, it goes
get
right
it.
to it.
It does?
Yeah,
Oh, it's linked to it?
automatically.
Strolling in
Okay.
like Rambo at the end.
Oh, here
Yeah,
it comes.
yeah.
I told you.
Oh, there's Doug. Hi, Doug.
Come on here. Come on, let's go here. What?
Edie, where's this administrative proposal go?
Usually at the bottom. It don't matter.
What's got,
Like
it's
at the
got a
bottom.
resolution underneath it?
Oh, is that for something else? Is that for?
Do I need to sign it?
Do you have your name on it? Do we know?
Oh, yeah.
It's right here, yeah, sign the front of it saying you're okay with all your information.
I changed my number.
Okay, then say there's
They
the
gotta
change.
call the bat. They gotta call the bat line.
Okay,
Batman.
same bad times.
Call the meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is for one that's on here tonight.
That's what I was thinking, I just wanted to know where to put it.
All supervisors are here. Roll call, please. Oh.
It's coming in right now.
Now all supervisors are here. This time we'll open the floor up to citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? State your name and address for the record, please, Lou. You're on.
Louis Regani, 4526 29th Avenue in Kenosha. Wanted to compliment the crews on the beautification on the courthouse. It's never looked better. So thank you for that. Thank you for what you do for downtown. I'm here, though, on a matter that I brought up earlier. Now I finally had some material that I could use. It's called the Western Kenosha County Transit Route explanation from last year and the year before. And I was here on the route which has as its destination the state of Illinois and the county of Walworth and the city of Lake Geneva and the village of Antioch. And I'm all for transit. I'm a former transit commissioner, but I speak only for myself. I found the document finally after about 1.5 years of searching that I had said I couldn't find. Maybe some of you don't recall that. And for that, I don't blame you. It seems to be a minor matter. It probably is. But it bugs me that we take people from the city of Kenosha and from the county of Kenosha and drop them off as a destination in a different state and a different county to do their shopping. I was in Lake Geneva, and one of our county buses went through, and I saw they're giving people rides from Kenosha to Lake Geneva to do their shopping and all that. And my whole concern is, if that's what we're doing with federal and state money, it's okay, I suppose, but I was told by an official 1.5 years ago from Western Kenosha County Transit Management that absolutely no local funds go into this. And I said, I remember reading at them, and I can't remember where I read, and I was told that I was wrong. I said, I'm not wrong, I just can't remember where it was. Well, of course, here, I'll just quote what I'll give you, and I'll give you copies. This is a quote from the Western Kenosha County Transit Route explanation, which had to do with SewerPAC, too. Annual operating expenses for WKCT service were about $605,000 in 2010. Of that, about $38,000, about 6% came from Kenosha County tax levy. So there it is. We are spending local, and I know that's peanuts. I know that's peanuts. But it's the idea that we're taking people from Kenosha and picking them up at Southport Mall. Does Southport Mall have any vacancies? And taking them out to shop at Walmart, and in Antioch, in Lake County, Illinois, and Walmart in Lake Geneva. I would say, can we just reverse the process, start out there and bring them into Kenosha? Then I was told by one of the officials from WKCT that that's where people want to go and that they have needs for pharmaceutical services and they have needs for medical doctors, physicians, etc. And my question then would be, are there any doctors in Kenosha? Are there any drugstores in Kenosha? Instead of making Walworth County and Antioch richer, how about if we perhaps reverse the process, originate there and bring them in here, especially not to stop at Southport, to bring them all the way down to the downtown area with all the efforts going into that. And just to continue, and I didn't know this, but the article, the informational pamphlet says, however, quote, this funding program will no longer be available in 2012, and the county will need to transition to a lower level of federal and state transit operating assistance. A reduction in WKCT services is likely. Okay. So I think it's doing a disservice to the merchants of Kenosha, to the city of Kenosha, to the tax structure of Kenosha, to take shoppers from Kenosha and bring them out to shop at Leisure in Lake County, pick them up and drop them off at Southport Mall, which looks like it's in need of a little help itself these days. I would urge that you stop short of Lake County, or if you're going into Lake County and going into Walworth County, that we get federal operating assistance from Lake County, from the village of Antioch, from the city of Lake Geneva, and from Walworth County. If we're going to be helping them, they should be able to pay for the privilege. Mutual operating assistance. And Racine wouldn't run any buses out to Mount Pleasant, Sturtevant, if those communities weren't paying for the privilege. And as soon as that stopped, that would be it. That's my point. I'd like to present these for your leisure. It's actually a 4-page pamphlet, but this is the relevant stuff. I hope you do something about that. It's kind of an insult to the city to see that we're subsidizing other businesses in other states and communities. Okay, state. Thank you all.
Thank you. The floor is still open for citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to speak? Anybody wishing to speak? Okay, at this time, if there's no objection from the floor, I'd like to suspend the rules and allow the representative from Gateway to have a little bit more of our time and give us a little presentation on their referendum. You'll have up to 15 minutes. Go ahead, proceed. Name and address for the record.
Thank you. I'm Dr. John Thibodeau, and I live at 2832 55th Avenue here in Kenosha. I want to thank the County Board for giving us some time this evening to talk about our upcoming referendum project. My hope is that you're having the opportunity, if you talk to your constituents, to answer some questions about what's going on at Gateway. We consider ourselves an important resource for the county. Gateway Technical College continues to serve a vital role in the economic development and the workforce development of our county. And it's our goal to remain responsive to community needs. In recent years, we've launched a new strategic plan called Vision 321, which stands for 3 counties, 2 centuries, and 1 vision for our area. And through that process, we've had a lot of conversations with our constituent groups and identified a lot of needs. Needs to provide skills to our population, skills that lead to a career, and ultimately give back to our community. And so the theme of our project that we're hoping to advance right now is skills, career, and community. In response to the needs that we've identified, our Board of Trustees has put forward a plan and authorized a referendum question to be on the ballot April 2nd that would give us the resources to jumpstart and advance the renovations and expansions to our facilities that would allow us to provide improved services in those skill and career areas. Keeping the region competitive is extremely important, and Gateway puts that front and center of its mission. What I'd like to share with you tonight are just some of the projects that are part of that referendum, so that you can get a broad sense of what Gateway hopes to accomplish. Okay? Probably the keystone academic project that's part of our referendum is a state-of-the-art public safety training center that will be located in the central part of our three-county district. The college has not yet identified exactly where. We're looking at properties in all three counties, and I know we've been in touch with the county executive's office to talk about options. And our goal is to place it in such a way that we can have all of our law enforcement agencies in the three-county area conveniently access it. Because we're not just providing training to our Gateway students and our police academy students, but we are a large-scale provider of continuing education to all of the law enforcement agencies in our area, many of whom currently are forced to send their employees outside of the district to get the training they need because we have not developed the facilities to the extent that we feel we need to. So part of this training center would include a 3-block simulated learning city. Okay? And this will provide training not just for police, but also for firefighters and EMTs, and allow them to train in a realistic setting with streets and buildings, something that we can't necessarily do on an actual city street. Okay? So this allows them a very realistic setting for which to train. Okay? We are also looking at additional classroom facilities, tactical labs, and a forensics lab. And the forensics is an area that is obviously very important in law enforcement and something that Gateway needs to get into. The center will also feature an emergency vehicle operations track. And right now we are doing our emergency vehicle operations in the parking lot at Dairyland Greyhound Park. Okay? That's not what it was designed for. And if the casino is successful, it will not be an available facility for us. What we really need is a track that was designed for the kind of training that law enforcement officers need to do to learn how to operate vehicles at a high speed safely. There will also be an indoor pistol and firing range. Currently, our law enforcement students use a converted storage space in the basement of the Kenosha campus, which basically has 5 shooting lanes that are about half the length of the recommended configuration for firearms training. So we really want to be able to provide first-rate firearms training for all of our law enforcement officers and all of our law enforcement students. We'll also be able to store equipment and vehicles on that site and have a dedicated focus on protective services for all of our customers in the three-county area. Okay. In addition to that, we do have some expansions and remodeling projects for all of our campuses. I want to start a little far from home out in Walworth County and talk about a few of the expansions that we're planning in Elkhorn. Okay. Some of the new programming we hope to provide there, a food quality technician laboratory. We have a lot of companies in our district that are food manufacturers and food packagers, and they require a technician who's able to operate in a clean environment and understands the safety standards that are related to the food industry. So this is programming Gateway doesn't currently have, but we want to bring into the area and respond to the needs of companies like Ocean Spray, Kikkoman, and their like. Also, we hope to bring a veterinary science program to the district. And actually tomorrow, the Wisconsin Technical College System Board will be considering our concept proposal and hopefully approving Gateway to offer veterinary technician. There's only one veterinary technician program in the entire state at the technical college level, and it's in Madison. Okay? But our local veterinarians have met with us and expressed a need to have trained technicians in our area, and so we hope to respond to that need by providing a state-of-the-art lab to teach veterinary technician. Okay? Also, due to the growth of the hospitality industry, we hope to take 2 of our very successful programs from this side of the district and offer them in Walworth County for the first time. One is culinary arts, and the other is barber cosmetology, to take advantage of the resorts and spas in that area. I want you to know, however, that one of the clearest messages we've heard from every county is the need to support manufacturing. Walworth County currently has a welding program and a manufacturing program. However, we know that we are not meeting the local needs with the size of the shop that we have. And so we intend to expand the welding facilities and the machining facilities in Walworth County so they can provide for employers in that area the way we do currently at our IMET Center in Sturtevant and our campus at Lakeview here in Kenosha County. Moving a little closer to home, in Racine, we will be doing some remodeling in our technical building in Racine so that we can improve our freshwater technician program. This is part of our construction sciences group. It's a civil engineering program where we teach technicians who are working in all kinds of different settings, from water utilities to road construction, to understand the need to protect and preserve our freshwater supplies and be more environmentally sustainable in those projects. So that will be a new laboratory space on the Racine campus. Finally, kind of moving closer then to what we intend to do in Kenosha, we hope to provide new spaces for 2 of our programs in Kenosha. One is new. We will, because of changes in state licensure, be splitting off barbering from cosmetology because they're now separate licenses, and we'll be starting a barbering program in Kenosha. We hope to provide them with a state-of-the-art barbering lab, which will actually be open to the public so they can get customer service skills and practice very much like we do in our salon in the Racine campus for our current cosmetology program. We also intend to upgrade our facilities for our interior design program, which is currently taught in a regular table and chairs classroom, but we'd like to provide them a space that is more realistic, more like a design studio that you would encounter when you go to buy furnishings for your home. So they'll have a more realistic experience working in the interior design field. Finally, on the Kenosha campus, we want to bring enhanced student services to our community. Right now on the Kenosha campus, in order to meet the academic needs of our students, we have 4 or 5 different centers located all over the campus. One for students with disabilities, one for multicultural students, one for students in basic education, another for our credit students. And that's been basically because of available space. But that leaves the student to go around campus and try and find the appropriate place to get help for their academic needs. What we'd like to implement on the Kenosha campus is something that we've been very successful with in Elkhorn and soon to be successful with when it opens this summer in Racine, something we call a Learning Success Center, where we'll take all of those academic services and bring them together under one roof, okay? So that a student, whoever they are and whatever their needs are, can walk in and whoever they need to meet with will be located in that center. So they won't have to search around. Also, they'll be studying beside a variety of diverse Gateway students. So someone who is studying basic math for their GED will be studying in the same place as someone who's seeking an associate degree in accounting. They'll all feel like college students, which is exactly what we want them to feel like, because that's really why they're all at Gateway, is to ultimately pursue college. Okay? We also hope to upgrade our Student Services Center, provide more private space for student conversations with advisors and financial aid specialists. We hope to be able to provide more workshop space so that we can do more group work with interested students and students working on financial aid, projects like that. And finally, we are bringing a new focus to career services. We know that the placement of our graduates is uppermost in their minds and obviously in our employers' minds too. So we want to put a dedicated career center in Kenosha with resources where students can explore jobs and job openings, where employers can come and do interviews with our students if they wish, and where we can make connections to employers to introduce them to Gateway's programs and Gateway students, and hopefully provide a much shorter path from graduation to employment. Those are all the things that we would like to do. And we feel like they're all very beneficial things for the community. The impact financially of the referendum, which is a $49 million question, would be $9.73 per year per $100,000 of valuation for each of the next 20 years. That's about 81 cents a month, which is a very small investment to provide the kinds of graduates that Gateway does to our community. 75% of Gateway graduates stay in the district and work and collect a salary, spend their money at our stores, pay taxes in our communities. We do not have the brain drain that some of the university systems do with students going out of state. So the money that's invested in Gateway is money that stays here in the Kenosha, Racine, and Walworth County community to benefit our people. Okay. Our hope is to continue to fill the skills gap, to provide our employers with the employees that they need, and to provide our community with careers that ultimately are supportive and make our community better. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you this evening, and if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Supervisor Montemuro.
It's a 3-county, and it sounds wonderful, but is that price that you mentioned for all 3 counties, or just Kenosha?
The $49 million is actually all 3 counties.
So Racine will be contributing to that, and Walworth will be contributing?
Yes, and we are a 3-county district, but we are, in terms of local control, we're one entity. So we don't have we don't tax separately. We have to tax at the same rate for all 3 counties.
So Racine will be giving you money towards this referendum?
Yes, Racine and Walworth and Kenosha County would all be contributing for these projects.
But not equally?
I'm sorry?
Is it equal contributions or different?
It's the same mill rate.
Okay.
So it's the same mill rate in all 3 counties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Oh. Supervisor Noble has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for the presentation. I know that Gateway has a nursing program.
Yes.
And this county board has had a similar presentation to yours on the projections for nursing homes and workforce. And part of those projections both highlighted on the fact that there's a projected shortage of millions of nurses nationally as the baby boomers become older. So in your presentation, I didn't hear anything about what this referendum is going to do in the Gateway 3-county district to recognize that calamity that's coming and the infrastructure that needs to be filled so that this 3-county doesn't experience this nursing shortage. What are we doing about that?
Sure, and that's a great question. One of the challenges in nursing training, actually there's several challenges in nursing training, but the nursing program involves classroom training but also clinical training, which requires that our nursing students be placed in long-term care facilities, acute care facilities, under the direction and supervision of practicing nurses so that they can get hands-on experience. The bottleneck right now in providing more nursing training is not with the Gateway facilities. We have excellent labs that we put in on our Burlington campus and our Kenosha campus to do the classroom part of the nursing training. What prevents us from putting out a greater volume of nurses is the availability of clinical space. Gateway is one of many nursing programs that utilize the hospitals and clinics in this area. We have good relationships with them, and they are very generous about allowing us to come into their facilities with our students. But there is a limit to how many students at a time we can bring through a clinical setting. If we were to have greater access, and I don't fault the hospitals for this because they're in the business of serving patients, and there's only so many students they can have underfoot when they're doing that. I don't fault them, but if there were more access to clinical sites, we would have the opportunity, because we can put more students in our classroom, but we can't put more students in our clinical site. The reason why it's not therefore referenced in the referendum is we're looking here at remodeling and building projects to support programming at Gateway, and our physical facilities at Gateway, we feel right now are state of the art as far as nursing training goes.
You know, and we've heard that answer before, but what, is anybody recognizing and doing something to try to break down the bottleneck? Because if they aren't, there's, you know, it's like, yeah, there's gonna be a $3 million shortage of nurses, and we know we have a bottleneck, but what are folks doing about that bottleneck?
Well, there's a couple of things. One of the things Gateway's done in the last, I would say, 6 years is we've invested in some human patient simulator labs. Again, not the same as working with an actual patient, but more realistic than working in a regular skills lab. So some of the ability to use technology is allowing us to give the nurses some of those clinical hours. However, the accreditors for nursing still require that actual patient contact. We are also talking about the possibility of extending our schedule. We don't have as much nursing going in the summer, primarily because the hospitals are telling us that summer is a time when their staff are on vacation. Again, they don't have the capacity. But we are having those conversations with our area healthcare providers, and we are all aware that we're going to need to do something to change the model of how we train nurses if we're going to get more nurses available. So it's a problem that we're all struggling with, and I think you have a very good grasp of it. I think you appreciate what's going on with that, and it is something we are talking about.
Thank you, Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Dodge, and then we'll wrap up this line of questioning.
If this proposal doesn't pass in all 3 counties, let's say it fails in 1 or 2, what happens to the proposal?
Good question. As I said, we are a single district, so this is a single district vote. So the requirement is that a majority of all the district voters support the referendum. Okay? So each individual county is not voting separately on the referendum. If there were sufficient voters in 2 of the counties to produce a majority within the county, the referendum would pass. So it is not an individual county vote, it is a 3-county vote, and it's counted that way as a 3-county vote, and it is a majority in the 3-county area. So it's possible we could lose a county and still pass a referendum. Hope not.
Thank you, Supervisor Dodge. Thank you again, sir. Good questions and a good presentation. At this time, we'll call on the County Executive, Jim Kreuser, to give us his State of the County address.
Mic on there. How's that for a check back there? Make sure my battery didn't go dead in the last half hour. How's that? A little better? Did the John Rudy test earlier. How's that? All right, good deal. Good evening, everyone. Chairman Gens, Vice Chairman Kubicki, ladies and gentlemen of the County Board, other elected officials, tribal members, circuit court judges, and other elected officials, and of course the citizens of Kenosha County. It is great to be here in Kenosha County, isn't it? Yes. I think it is. I stand here before you tonight as prescribed by the statutes to give you the State of the County address. And I'm pleased to be here tonight to report that Kenosha County is in very good shape. Working together, our bond rating is 1 click below AAA. It's at AA1, established by Moody's, and is higher than any other municipality solely within Kenosha County. And Standard & Poor's states Kenosha County maintains strong financial reserves paired with good managerial practices. Kenosha has a moderate overall debt and a rapid overall debt burden with rapid amortization. As the Finance Committee learned last Thursday, preliminary financial indicators before audit showed that our general fund balance is above our 17% general fund reserve policy, which also indicates we're in a stronger position than we have been in the past. You also learned Thursday that Kenosha County's had record sales tax collections at $10.7 million, which indicates, it's a good indicator that our economy is getting stronger. And as you'll hear tonight, and as you have Todd Battle, or was here before, maybe there he is back there, his phone's ringing a lot more off the hook also. And I appreciate the county boards supporting the continued efforts to add best practices into not only the financial areas, but all levels of county government. It is important that we have clear, accurate, and timely information when we're making our very important county decisions. Together, we were part of lowering our overall, the lowering of our OPEB, other post-employment benefits, from $132 million to $70 million was a substantial accomplishment by this board from 2008 to the present. It also showed a sign of financial stability and a course that the bond company looks favorably upon. If you look on that chart, we're that green line that's now below the other areas. I do not take lightly that discomfort was involved, because I can tell you that our employees deliver high-quality services every day to our community. Every day, services are provided to our veterans, to people who have been downsized, people who have been displaced, people who need a child support check, people who need immunizations, the children who need immunizations, so we can protect the very young, to keep the elderly safe from abuse, and to provide justice to individuals through our court system. We also maintain and record vital records and ensure financial records are properly documented. The Kenosha Sheriff's Department goes on calls, single-person squads, and face dangers at any call that may happen. State, county, and federal roads are well-maintained and plowed by our highway departments, and are also good for good commerce and for the public use. County jailers work hard and have allowed the county to gain financially over the last number of years. Kenosha County and county government is the front line for the delivery of federal and state services. As you are all aware from your reports to your various committees of how that money is a significant part of our budget. We are where the rubber meets the road. We are the pipeline for those mandated programs, and I want to publicly acknowledge the top-notch efforts our Kenosha County employees do every day. Our employees are a big reason why Kenosha County is in very good shape. We employ many individuals that have excelled to high levels in their given fields. You work with all of them in your committees, they come to your committees, they give you reports. Our employees have been recognized on the state and nationally and the county level, and nationally for their achievements. Sean Ginter received the Caregiver of the Year Spotlight Award from the Wisconsin Long-Term Care Workforce Alliance. Sean works at Brookside and leads by example every day. The county's child support agency received an Outstanding Performance Award at the State Child Support Conference in 2012. Congratulations to all of them on that, on their very important work. Ron Rogers, the Director of Children and Family Services, received national recognition for his work, the 2012 Commissioner's Award from the administration on children, youth, and families. I want to thank you, Ron. And the finance chair like this. Also, one of our employees has received the CPA of the Year Award in government. It's a statewide honor from the Wisconsin Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Dave Gertson, stand up. You've definitely done your time for that. But there's more with Dave. In 2 days, Dave will be receiving the Kenosha Area Business Alliance Volunteer of the Year Award. Thanks again, Dave, for all you volunteer in the community. With our outstanding employees and emphasis on long-range planning and our ability to have ideas percolate from the down up and vice versa, that has allowed us not just to plan, but to get things done. Many times you hear about plans in government, plans that are drawn out, plans that sit on the shelf. We not only plan, we get things done. Here are some interesting things that have gone on in Kenosha County that I think not only this board knows, but maybe if you're not on the committee, you don't know. And certainly I don't think the public at large knows. The Kenosha County Aging and Disability Resource Center is reaching a growing number of consumers seeking online information with 30,368 visits to their website. The assistance provided by Kenosha County's benefit specialists amounted to $2.5 million in savings for income for elders and persons with disabilities. Adult crisis contacts jumped to 8,000 in 2012, up from 6,000 in 2011. Our Adult Protective Services staff investigated 422 cases of suspected abuse or neglect of Kenosha County elders and persons with disabilities. Important work is being done by county employees every day. Brookside Care Center served a record number of Kenosha County residents in 2012 with 356 admissions. And that included an average daily census of 34 rehabilitation residents, a 15% increase over last year. The Division of Health received a grant to support and educate first-time mothers from low-income households. This will improve pregnancy outcomes, improve child health and development, and improve economic self-sufficiency of the family. In a typical year, our county receives 3 confirmed cases for pertussis. Dr. Montemurro, that's whooping cough, right? All right, just double checking. The health communicable disease staff reported 145 confirmed cases of pertussis, and that's a contagious bacterial disease that affects the respiratory tract. Left untreated, that's known as the cough for 100 days. A new economic support consortium partnership with Racine responded to more than 212,550 calls during the 2012 year in that collaborative call center. And it's worked out quite well partnering with Racine County, but that's a lot of calls. The child support program continues its aggressive approach in getting that much needed child support money for the children who need it. Child support collected $34,845,000 in 2012 to help support and raise their children. This increased child support amount was $750,000 higher than 2011. In a bad economy, when unemployment was high, we collected more money to take care of the kids. Our Veterans Department participated in the Stand Down for Homeless Veterans project that was held last August in Racine. And they served 99 veterans, 24 were homeless or at the risk of being homeless. In October, that same program is going to be done at our job center, and Stand Down will take place at that time. Also, our Veterans Department will begin bringing the World War II Memorial that was here last September at the UAW somewhere in this region, probably in Racine County. Our Veterans Department is working closely with various veteran groups and other organizations to bring the moving wall here, a week-long event displaying and honoring Vietnam War veterans to our county, September 12th through the 16th at Prairie Springs Park. The Division of Children and Family Services, the 2012 Summer Youth Program, had continued its success. 210 at-risk youth were employed this summer, over 22,000 hours of work at 41 different job sites. And through the collaboration with the Kenosha Unified School District, over half earned a half a credit from their public school for their high school degree in preparing for their graduation. They also learned valuable work skills of showing up to work on time, opening a bank account, and making sure that they pay attention, even though they're using hand tools. The Kenosha Police Department records continue to show a 34% decrease in juvenile arrests during the program months as compared with the same time period before the program started. Our actions in human services are making our families stronger and our streets safer. Here's some 2012 statistics from the Job Center and Human Service. 8,067 immunizations and vaccines were given through the Department of Health. 9,790 people were seen through the Nurse of the Day Clinic. 2,150 veterans utilized services. Over 20,000 economic support cases were served through the Department of Workforce Development. 8,690 families, including children, have been served by the Department of Children and Families. 11,301 people have been seen through the Department of Aging and Disability Services. 21,923 youth were assisted with trainings, workshop, and employment skills. 9,600 hours were spent in the computer lab. And there are 1,022 active employee relationships in our business services. We're making a difference in Kenosha County, and you can't go to your neighbor or your relatives without somebody being touched by the services we are providing. Sometimes people say they don't have a county board supervisor because they live in the city. Kenosha County includes the city, and plenty of people in the city are using our services as well as the county. With our partner in the Kenosha Area Business Alliance, economic development is on the rise. Some highlights of the new businesses coming or growing here in Kenosha County are Bradshaw Medical, Good Foods Group, LLC, Handy Ramp, Meyer, they're based in Grand Rapids, Pacific Sands, Aurora Healthcare, Majestic Realty Company, EMCO, relocating its headquarters here, and Tai Chen, moving here from Illinois. CABA is also planning to announce in the coming weeks the welcoming of 3 new manufacturing companies to Kenosha County. We also know that Kenosha County is in play for 4 to 6 other projects. On top of that, that will mean new jobs for Kenosha County. I'd like to take a moment, as long as Todd's here, and shout out a nice thank you to you, Todd, for all your hard work. Kenosha County's unemployment rate has fallen nearly 5 percentage points from the peak of 12.9% in February 2010 to 8% September 2012. Major layoffs have subsided significantly. There's been a slow and steady improvement in business expansions, investment, and hiring. The industrial vacancy rate continues to decline, which is now between 5 and 6%. The downtown development plan is advancing, and Kenosha County is supporting that effort through $20,000 of money that's coming from the county and that we give to CABA every year. We've had many successes in Kenosha County together, not only in the past year, but in the past 5 years. And sometimes when you write them down, you forget about them. But when you write them down, take a look at them, I think you're going to be impressed at how much has been done over the last between 1 and 5 years. Here are just some of the things we've accomplished together. The IGA with the city for the Joint Services and Public Safety Building. The Health Department settlement with the city. Some items on this list took longer to get done than others. Resuming Council of Government meetings, listening sessions throughout the county, more significant state and federal outreach. Highways N, G, and K, reconstruction and jurisdictional transfers to the city. WKRP Income Maintenance Consortium, I love the name, with Racine County. Improving our county's fiscal health during the tough economic times. Zero levy in 2013. The last 2 budgets have been the lowest in the last 25 years. The OPEB reduction, $132 million to $70 million. Ended vacation payout, saving $145,000. Ended subsidy to retiree health insurance and gave them a better plan at lower cost, and we saved $760,000 annually. We replenished the general fund to meet or exceed the revenue, or the reserve fund, or to exceed the reserve fund of 17%. Strengthened Brookside Care Center and removed their costs from the levy. And I see a bunch of them back there. Thank you very much. Sometimes they book 2 beds in a day. We've restructured our health insurance. We've also included an employee wellness initiative that I believe at this point we're about at 80% participation, which is, I think, very high for an employee wellness initiative. Created the High Impact Fund to attract and retain and grow jobs. Refinanced $20,000 in debt for a $2.3 million savings over 7 years, and the golf operations are in the black. We've improved our county infrastructure in many ways. The Public Safety Building, 911 Dispatch Center addition, and the KPD addition. The countywide public safety broadband and countywide commercial, educational, and residential broadband. Previously not available in 30% of our geography, and it also affects 30% of our population that did not have access to affordable high speed. The courthouse and the Molinaro building restoration. Keeping pace with county highway road repair and repaving. Migrated to the cloud, saving more than $1 million in IT infrastructure costs. Kronos upgrades, saving $100,000 in payroll operating costs, along with a lot of potential for savings in the future. Moved the medical examiner. Remember that, one of the first things? That's, we saved over, I mean, we made a partnership with United Hospital Systems. And then we raised the old Brookside, took the other 2 homes off of the Kemper Center, and we're saving $100,000 in their annual maintenance and utilities costs. But you know all this. This all went through your committees, and you were supportive of it. Quality of place, quality of life. Kenosha County is in very good shape. The opening of KD Park. Special thanks to Ray Arbit, who's not here, Dennis Elverman, and Mark Molinaro for their help on the Green Ribbon Committee, and have worked collaboratively with the towns of Wheatland, Randall, and the village of Twin Lakes to make sure that progression is what that community wants, and it's good for the county overall. I think the building of the trails and the structures has worked out well with using at-risk youth, acquiring the additional adjacent property, and continue planning efforts with that Green Ribbon Committee. Disc River Golf Course in Fox River Park. 3 dog parks were built and maintained without taxpayer dollars. And Eric, who thought that ice house trail would have been built that quick out at Silver Lake? If you haven't gone on it, you need to do that. Park in Silver Lake Park and walk. Paving the old North Shore line, the North and South Trail, and hosting the annual bike rides, the Derriere Breakfast Ride and the Fall Wheel Ride. And when you look at those issues, those are listed in a booklet statewide. So people come from other areas just to go on those rides. So it gave us that extra publicity. We would not have been listed in those rides, and we wouldn't have done our comprehensive bike plan, and we wouldn't have had probably the energy to do the academic trail from Carthage to Parkside, except I had a volunteer, Don Moldenhauer. The late Don Moldenhauer was an alderman, an avid bicyclist, and he gave the passion and has set the foundation for our stage and bike trails here, and we owe him many, many thanks. And I met Don many times at Petrifying Springs on the trails there, and the restoration of that whole park and the dam removal. I bet many people haven't heard many things bad about pets since that renovation took place. It's been voted the best hiking and walking trails in the Kenosha News 2012, and many fingerprints from this room were on those plans to make it better. Bringing the Pillars of Honor, the National World War II Memorial to Kenosha. We've had a lot with an emphasis on youth services in the past number of years. summer youth employment, giving at-risk youth activities and jobs, and lifelong skills, reducing the juvenile intake dollars costs through aggressive local and less expensive programs. And we hired a gang prevention coordinator to assist with all of those functions. That's worked out fabulously. And here's a few more accomplishments, but certainly not all of them. Because I know about 80 of you are going to come up to me afterward and say, you forgot this. But here's some more. The county ethics ordinance. The reestablishment by the drug task force led by Sheriff Dave Beth. Working cooperatively with the constitutional county officers. Sheriff Dave Beth, Terry Jacobson, or Treasurer Terry Jacobson, the Clerk of Courts Rebecca Mataska-Mentink, District Attorney Bob Zaff, County Clerk Mary Krebs, and Registrar G. Joel and Stores. We also moved the Register of Deeds down to the lower level, reorganized it with land records, reduced the number of staff, and we've also completed the redistricting, overall redistricting. Smart Growth Plan was implemented. The foreclosure mediation program has received more than 200 applications since the launch. What a great idea that was. Creation of the special courts for alcohol and other drugs, mental health, and veterans. And mental health is an area where we need to continue to work on. And I'm glad we're moving forward on the mental health court. And our services in mental health have to be maintained at our level. And hopefully with the state programs, once they're detailed, we'll be able to complement that and expand that area. Thanks to Jack Rose and all your work with NAMI on that. And also the Veterans Court. Restructuring of the IT division. Many of you will never get your hours back in your life you worked on that project. Thank you very much. Launched a new and customer-friendly Kenosha website. We are and should be proud of all we've done. And now we're in a position to wrap some more of those things up. But we've always also put ourselves in a position to deal with new challenges that lie before us. Kenosha County is in very good shape financially. Kenosha County is in very good shape with our infrastructure, highways, and broadband. Kenosha County is in very good shape with our providing a high quality of life and giving the citizens ability to use our park system inexpensively. And Kenosha County is in shape many ways, and it's a lot because of all of your hard work here in this room. Because you continue to put the business of Kenosha County first all the time. Working together, we're in a position to handle what comes in the future. We'll successfully address those issues that lie ahead, and we'll keep Kenosha County in very good shape. Thank you, and may God bless you. And have a good night. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you, County Executive Kreuser. This time, announcements of the chairman. The only thing I'd like to make sure you guys have in your calendars is our next meeting is going to be moved to the Wednesday because of April 2nd being an election. What? Yeah, April 3rd. Is that what I said? Yeah. All right, April 3rd. That's the only announcement I have. Supervisor reports. Supervisor Alverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe I reported on our committee's activities at the last meeting. I'm going to repeat the location of our next meeting, however, because we're going to have an open house at that meeting. The newly acquired Parks Department building and land, which is just west of the Katy Park, is going to be the location of our April meeting. It's April 1st. We're going to have an open house on April 1st at 5 o'clock, our normal meeting time at 6:30. There has been an invitation sent to everyone on their emails, and Mr. Rudy and the department are asking for RSVP. So we'd like to see people out there. You can take a look at at what we all purchased and the future of the Parks Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to bring the board's attention to the inclusion in the packet of the 2012 preliminary general fund estimated year-end unaudited draft, which the county executive spoke of. And we've met the standard that we set for ourselves. As you can see, the reserves as a percent of general fund expenditures of 17.5% meets our standards, and if you compare that nationwide, we're at the high end of the reserves as a percent of general fund expenditures. I'm not suggesting that the next round of meetings with Moody's and Standard & Poor's in the summer will result in an upgrade, but we're certainly working in the right direction and on that route. So I think that's something to be proud of. It's, as the executive has stated, and it's because we've worked well together as a board with the executive, and we've had good financial advice and management from both Dave Gersten and Al Schwartz. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to report that Youth and Governance interviews are on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. This will be for the 2013-14 year. We plan on having 2 on each committee next time. I also want to mention that May 21st will be the reception. If you've been here before, you know that we have a reception for about a half an hour prior to the board meeting. This is so that you can meet all of the new Youth and Governance participants. Any of the mentors are encouraged to reach out to their youth so that they can recognize them by face at least before the meetings start. Also happy to announce that we have finished our interviews for the Community Natural Resource and Economic Development position. This is the Conrad position, replacing Annie Jones. Amy Greel is going to be our new person. She will start on April 1st. Also, you either have on your desk or you have already received the economic impact study for Country Thunder. If anyone has any questions regarding that after they read through it, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Brunig. 2 things. Did you say May 21st was the reception?
That is correct.
Thank you. The second thing is, how many applications did we get? Just
I believe there were about 140 applicants. Approximately 60 of them returned the applications, and we will be interviewing 26 of them next week.
excellent. How's that as far as turnout based on the past? Is that more than we've gotten, or?
That is more. Yep,
Good,
we've had more
good.
every year.
Good. Thank you for your hard work on that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of notes from Human Services. First, we met earlier this evening at 6:45 to discuss and approve the Behavioral Health Treatment Court, which has been included in your packets and is on your desk tonight. Secondly, our next meeting, which will take place on March 26th at 6:30 p.m., is going to be at the Human Services Building. It will not be in this building. It will be down the street at the Job Center. So if you come here looking for us, we're not here. We're down the street. Also, we made some small changes to the monthly update for those of you who maybe recall and maybe been paying attention, maybe not. Monthly, we get updates from the Department of Human Services about some of their grant programs and some of the other things that have been going on. I did have some conversations with Mr. Jansen to try to see if we could get some more statistical information included in there about some of the things going on. So look for that sometime, I want to say early next month. And this is aside from Human Services Committee. At our next meeting, because tonight's agenda is rather dense, at our next county board meeting, I will update the county board on what happened at the NACO Legislative Conference in DC 2 weeks ago. Very quickly, I'll say that I have a new initiative that I'm working on that I'm really, really, really excited about, but I can talk about some of that next week or next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Seeing no more lights. Supervisor reports are closed. Moving on.
Old business resolution, 1 reading. From the Executive Committee, a resolution to urge the governor to veto any legislation that would eliminate Election Day registration. Gentz, yes. Kubicki, yes. Rose, yes. Elverman, yes. Hallman, yes. Esposito excused. Brunig, yes.
Vice Chair Kubicki.
I move resolution number 90.
Resolution number 90 has been moved by Supervisor Kubicki, seconded by Supervisor Rose. Vice Chair Kubicki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is to urge Governor Walker to veto any legislation seeking to eliminate Election Day registration. Wisconsin is among the highest in voter turnout in the country, only second to Minnesota, with about a 70% turnout compared to 60% with the rest of the United States in the last presidential election. This is largely attributed to same-day registration and voting. According to the GAB, about 10 to 15% of state voters register to vote or update registration on election days. During the last presidential election, 10,236 Kenosha County residents registered. With the elimination of same-day registration, the Government Accountability Board estimates that it would cost the taxpayers of this state upward of $14 million, not the 5.2 that I have listed in the resolution, because the state would have to implement new registration services at state offices like the Department of Motor Vehicle and agencies that provide public assistance to people, and this would all be mandated by federal law. In closing, I would say let's keep same-day registration in place. It works. Let's give all people of this county and state the ability to register and vote on the same day, and let's not burden the taxpayers with its elimination. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kubicki. Supervisor Molinaro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not support the resolution before us this evening. And while I'm not surprised, I find it rather interesting that this resolution comes forward in the form that it's in, and I'll get to that in a moment. I voted today because I'll be out of town on April 2nd. Saw a woman at the counter at the town hall who I hadn't met before. She didn't know who I was. Handed me a ballot. I filled it out, put it in the envelope, handed it back, and out I went. Had I also been there to purchase a burn permit or to license my dog, I would have had to pull my driver's license out of my wallet. But because I was simply there to vote for a Supreme Court judge or a school board member or a referendum at $49 million, I needed nothing. And by that I mean nothing. But thankfully I registered my dog back in February, so I wasn't inconvenienced to pull my driver's license out. What does that have to do, the supervisor in front of me says with his hands in the air, to the topic? It has everything to do with the topic. Because this isn't about facts and figures. We have 5.2 here, but in the explanation it's now 14 million. That is one hell of a swing, which goes exactly to my point. If you want to know if there's an issue, you actually physically have to do the investigation to see if there is one, yet we refuse to do it. But when we bring a resolution forward at a couple meetings ago, which I understand should have gone to the committee and didn't, on intoxicated drivers, we wanted facts and figures. Yeah, we're going to say in this resolution tonight that we want the governor to veto any legislation. We're not even open to listening. We're simply saying any legislation. But we didn't want to support, and many of you who are on this resolution didn't support the drunk driving resolution that was brought forward because you wanted to know exactly how many people drove double the legal limit. Really? So we're okay saying no facts necessary here. But I want to know how many people are going to be affected if we pass this resolution. Only state in the country that has drunk driving not a crime first offense. By the way, if you were listening to the national news a week and a half ago, #1 binge drinking state in the country, again, is the state of Wisconsin. But we want to know not whether or not you're going to show ID or you're going to allow people to come in and register to vote on Election Day with nothing more than a utility bill. We want to know how many drunk drivers we're going to take off the road if we move to a double the legal limit penalty. This is just crazy. We are not open to understanding what the options are. We have the Supreme Court right now looking at whether or not illegal immigrants should be required to show a license in order to vote. In order to vote? You've got to be kidding me. If the adjective or your title starts with the phrase or the word illegal, the question is over. Why on earth is there a Supreme Court getting involved in that to begin with? It is a fundamental shut the door issue. If you are described as illegal and it's factual, well, I don't understand why we're discussing this issue right now. When we have a resolution before us that talks about 5.2 million, but it might be 14 million. We talk about not wanting to put this onus on the Department of Motor Vehicles, yet when you're there, you're doing exactly that. You're getting a driver's license for the purpose of identification. These numbers are inflated, they're not accurate, and they're done simply to skew the issue. What is it we have to do to entice people to vote in this country and in this state? Polls open at 7, they close at 8. We don't have to have armed guards at the doors like many countries in this world do. We don't have to walk miles to a polling place like many countries in the places in this country or in this world do. Yet we can't seem to figure out a simple way to require people to show identification to vote, and this does not address the issue, it ignores it. But more importantly, it comes out and says we will support nothing. We're closed-minded, we're shutting our eyes, and if anything that comes forward that eliminates it, we want the governor to say no. I'm not prepared to do it until I know what the resolution and what the suggestion is, and you shouldn't be prepared to do that tonight either. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Supervisor Skalitsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I find it ironic that there's a budget surplus for Kenosha County of approximately $2 million, despite a 0% tax levy increase. And 25% of that surplus comes from reduced health insurance costs. The irony comes from the fact that Kenosha County, and ultimately the taxpayers of Kenosha County, were able to save approximately $500,000 on health insurance costs, primarily because of the provisions of Act 10. The same act that this very body used a non-binding resolution, just like Resolution 90, to condemn that act approximately, like I said, 2 years ago. In its current form, EDR, which is Election Day Registration, promotes the element of fraud in the election process. Due to lack of effective identification controls or requirements. Since I have a number of constituents who have witnessed questionable identification practices on Election Day, I cannot support this resolution and any resolution that seeks to maintain the status quo of EDR. I consider one's constitutional right to vote one of the most precious rights that we have, and thus I feel compelled to protect its integrity. The possibility of canceling my vote or the legitimate vote of any one of my constituents through fraud is unacceptable. Any effort to support or continue the current identification requirements of EDR will not be supported by me. Although noble in concept, Resolution 90 does nothing to strengthen democracy because it does nothing to improve the integrity of the election process. As a result, I will not support Resolution 90 as it's currently written. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Montemuro.
I also feel, as the two supervisors have said, that I cannot support this resolution. If we had in here that we required voter ID and there was an adequate identification of who was voting and it was a legal vote, then I understand why we would have registration at the poll. I believe every legal voter has the right to vote. But I personally was in line and watched somebody, in my opinion, vote illegally and negate my vote last year when I was on the ballot. And it infuriated me, and it infuriates many people. So unless this board had something in this resolution that puts back voter ID, I think it's wrong to support it, and I think it sends the wrong message. So if you want the message to be to allow people to register at the polls, then go the extra step and make sure it's an honest vote. And then I could support your resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Kohlmeyer.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't speak too long. I just wanted to note a personal experience I had this past election cycle in the presidential election. I normally vote first thing in the morning whenever I vote. This time after work, I went to vote. It was late. It was about 6:37. There was a huge line of people at the polling place, and I thought, oh boy, I'm going to be here basically up till 8 o'clock. Anyways, I got up closer to the polling place. The line of people was probably, I'd say, 50 to 75 people long. Once I got closer to the polling place, I realized that was the line to register to vote. There was absolutely nobody in line to vote. I just think that's a very disturbing trend. I literally walked in and out. And I'm by no means saying that everyone there was voting legally or anything like that. I just think it's a disturbing trend that, as I think Supervisor Molina pointed out, that people have fought and died for the right to vote. And I know there's certain circumstances where you can't register to vote beforehand, and I'm not saying everybody can, but to see that many people in line with an hour left to vote is just, whether they're voting it's just not a great trend. And I agree, if voter ID was in place, I'd have no problem with this, but since there's no control, I just can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kohlmeyer. Supervisor Holman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to Supervisor Kubicki, there seems to be some confusion. Can you please clarify as to the purpose of this?
Well, as it clearly states, it's to be able to register and vote on the same day. It's nothing to do with voter ID. I didn't say anything about voter ID here.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I want to address some of the comments that I've heard.
You have the floor.
I'm really disturbed. This seems to be taking a lot of roads that are really inappropriate for this discussion. The first thing I want to say is to address something I heard from the supervisor of the 15th District. The issue about folks who are not legal citizens voting and the Supreme Court weighing in particularly pertains to Arizona. There's a situation where a number of folks became naturalized citizens, showed their birth certificates, showed other documents, and election officials basically denied them their constitutional right to vote. Said, sorry, we can't certify the fact that you're a citizen, you can't vote. So they decided to take their case to the Supreme Court. That's not an issue that we have here per se in Wisconsin. It's not something that pertains to us. I do want to address the issue of the $5.2 million. There's a document that came from our very own Government Accountability Board that details the costs quite extensively of changing EDR. They talk about voter list maintenance costing $704,000. They talk about changes to the information technology system being $1.2 million. Training and GAB staffing, $800,000. Public education and outreach campaign, $1.2 million. Then they say we have to work with the Department of Transportation for their estimated costs, which end up being $1.6 million. Issues with the Department of Health Services, estimated costs there, $6.2 to $7.6 million estimated. Department of Children and Families, $167,000. Department of Workforce Development estimated costs, just a little over $1 million. So they say using the recommended practices for the GAB components, the total cost would range from $13.1 million to $14.5 million. That's pretty hefty. I would imagine there are probably better uses for state funds other than something like this. We have one of the highest voter turnouts in the nation. The U.S. Department of Justice, in conjunction with the Brennan Center for Justice, say that most claims of voter fraud are baseless and due more to the election irregularities of the officials running the polling places. It's not a significant issue. Statistically, the data speaks for itself. This is not a problem. It has been overhyped by both political parties, and I'm ashamed that we have members of this county board that would drag that nonsense into this chamber. We should all vote yes, be proud that we have a high voter turnout, and move on with the rest of our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm hearing a lot of excited dialogue here, a lot of what I would consider to be circular logic when the proposition before us is rather, I would think, straightforward. First of all, it's a feel-good resolution. It's simply a recommendation of the governor to say we'd like to preserve the quality and the quantity of our current ability to have election day registration. That's no surprise. We're not going to change anything in terms of policy here in this body this evening. It's basically saying to the governor, this is our opinion, we'd like to see it not done away with. Now, I think we all understand the governor has his own agenda and feeling on this matter, as do our legislators in Madison. So this is simply an opinion. To put more into it, to try to amend it, you can do it, but really it serves no purpose. So if you're on the side of it, support it. If you're not, that's fine too, but it is a feel-good type of thing, and I think it should be viewed as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Supervisor Decker.
Yes, I would just like to address the comment that there isn't fraud going on. Could have sworn I read last week in the Kenosha News that a felon voted in Twin Lakes. A felon who didn't have his civil rights restored. He registered to vote same day, voted illegally, and if we had not had same-day registration, he would not have been able to vote illegally. So don't tell me there's not fraud going on when we just caught it in Twin Lakes. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Molinaro.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm a little confused why we need to involve all of the agencies that Supervisor Hallman mentioned, including, I thought he mentioned Children and Family Services, into the issue of voter same-day registration. No wonder we're spending $14+ million. I don't know, and as he surfs his Facebook, maybe he'll come up with some other rationale for getting this number up to $20 million. It makes absolutely no sense to me, and if you don't think I'm on point with all of this being one larger conversation, I understand that this specific issue is in Arizona right now, but every state is watching. And it isn't simply as PennDOT as you explained it this evening in your explanation of what the Supreme Court is taking a look at. It is much broader than that. When Supervisor Kohlmeyer talks about a line out the door to register, I've got to bring a driver's license to register my dog. Not a one of those people in that line needed anything other than a utility bill. Same-day voter registration. Don't tell me about this great voter turnout in this country for any election, because it simply doesn't happen. So I agree, this is nothing but a feel-good resolution, and I don't feel good about it. And I don't want a unanimous vote on this county board floor other than no. Why on earth is it okay to register on the same day, to have a line that we see on a regular basis, to tell me that it promotes voter turnout when we had something less than 20% at the last election? What are we promoting? You have weeks. In fact, I believe you have 364 days, correct me if I'm wrong, leading up to the election to register. Put it in your planner. Make the effort. If it is that important to turn out under 20% voter election in the last election in Kenosha County, I believe that's what it was, and again, I could be wrong, but I'll pick some election because I know they weren't all this great turnout that we're hearing this evening, and what a record-breaking state we are, what a benchmark we set. This whole country is a disaster in terms of voter turnout. Yet we're going to continue to turn a blind eye to the fact that you need nothing more than a utility bill to register to vote and to say this is where I live. It is feel good, and I do not feel good about it. $14 million. It sounds like a human services role. I don't know the term I'm looking for. the agencies that were read off, I'm not surprised it's going to cost us $14 million. Not surprised in the least. And I'm sure it'll be much more than that because they'll piggyback something else ridiculous on top of it. Vote against this. Let's take some let's bring a serious resolution forward that urges real reform in how we register and how we vote in the state of Wisconsin and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Seeing no lights, roll call is requested. Resolution number 90 passes 14 to 9. Continuing on.
New business ordinance, first reading to required from Public Works Facilities Committee, an ordinance to repeal and recreate Chapter 10 of the Municipal Code of Kenosha County entitled County Parks. Resolutions, one reading, 100, from the Executive Committee, a resolution in support of extension of intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Menominee Indian Nation. Gens, yes. Kubicki, yes. Rose, yes. Elverman, yes. Hallman, yes. Esposito, yes. Brunick, excused.
Supervisor Elverman.
100.
Resolution 100 has been moved by Supervisor Elverman, seconded by Vice Chair Kubicki. At this time, I'll call on our Corporation Counsel to give us some background.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak on it.
Feel free, Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you. If you move a resolution, usually you get the opportunity to speak. I would urge everyone in this room, regardless of recent history and the current circumstances, that Kenosha County has invested a lot of time in this. I realize there's people in this room that think we've invested too much time. The Menominees have invested large sums of money. The people that own Dairyland Greyhound Park have invested large sums of money. We, the city of Kenosha, local municipalities, the unions that have worked on agreements, have all gone through about 10 years of time. I do believe we're on the brink of this right now. When you look at this 2-year agreement, people can say, well, why are you asking for 2 years? How are we on the brink? The reason we're looking at 2 years here is because the governor of the state of Wisconsin has a year to address this, if the Bureau of Indian Affairs approves this. So the 2-year is not a large stretch. The reason I'm bringing these items up here this evening is so that we don't get a lot of debate and questions on why we're going after 2 years. That's exactly why. Anything less, we'd be back in here for another 6-month proposal, and I think we need to see this through. I'm not going to go into all the old reasons, but I think enough of us have been here and enough of you have been here long enough that I think it's time to go for this, and we're getting close. See what happens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Rose.
Mr. Chairman and board members, when the chairman of the Menominee Indian Nation appeared before the Executive Committee, he indicated that he was quite optimistic that approval from the federal government would be received by the end of March 2013. This is March 19th, very close to the end. The chairman is here. I would ask, is that still your opinion? Microphone, please.
It is on. For some reason, I've got this.
I think we're good now. Huh?
Yep, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, to address Mr. Rose's concerns. Yeah, I do believe that we're still within that time frame to get it by the end of March. You know, I know in the past we've talked years. We were happy when we could talk months, and I think we're to the point where we're talking weeks now. And I'm still quite confident that we will have that. So.
Thank you. We would hope that you would promptly report that to us, because we've heard that quite a few times.
You'll be the second person I call.
Good. Do you have my number?
I'll get it.
Oh, boy. Thank you. Supervisor Rosa, anything else?
No.
Thank you. Supervisor Montemiro?
Thank you, Chairman. I realize everybody put in a lot of work, and 10 years is a long time. And I appreciate anyone who put honest work in this, believing that it was going to be good for the community and make a difference. But 10 years is also a long time for this project to have a negative reputation, not just a positive one. If anyone saw the Enough Already commercials, I was totally shocked, embarrassed, but their comments were true. And our casino would be number 25 in the state. Everyone in Wisconsin is within 2 hours of a casino. And I think it's long past time for Kenosha to move on. I think our constituents are looking for healthy choices in the future, not choices that didn't work. You extend this 2 years, what are you going to be looking at? The 27th casino in Wisconsin? There are other things to do. We need a healthy Kenosha, we need a healthy Kenosha County. I like the idea of expounding on the idea that Wisconsin is the indoor water capital of the country. Why not have a Wisconsin Dells South? We need the jobs, true. We need the tourists. But we also need an effort for something other than a casino that has given us a negative image in the state. I promised my constituents I would always put up an honest vote. The history behind this casino is not honest. I will not support this, and I urge people to think of a different solution. I don't think extending it 2 years will give us anything more than 2 more years of a black eye. It's time to change. That's how I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Montemiro. Really? Supervisor Kohlmeyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to report, I've always promised my district that I'd be open to listening. My district directly abuts the casino property. I've clearly heard over the last couple of years, the last 3 years, that the residents of my district, because this would be in their backyard, are not in favor of the casino. So that's how I'm going to vote tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kohlmeyer. Seeing no more lights, roll call is requested. Resolution 100 passes 20-3. Moving on.
Thank you.
Resolution 101 from Human Services and Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to modify Division of Aging and Disability Services 2013 budget to add behavioral health treatment court grant. Hallman, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Decker, yes. Arrington, yes. Montemiro, yes. Nudo, yes. Finance Admin Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Kohlmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, yes. Grady, yes.
Supervisor Hallman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move Resolution 101.
Resolution 101's been moved by Supervisor Holman, seconded by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Holman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to start the Kenosha County Behavioral Health Treatment Court. Funds will be used by the Kenosha County Department of Human Services and the Behavioral Health Treatment Court team to implement the Kenosha County Behavioral Health Treatment Court program, hereafter known as BHTC. The BHTC team consists of representatives from Human Services, the District Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office, the Judiciary, the Department of Corrections, and treatment providers. The BHTC program is a supervised, comprehensive treatment program for adult offenders of nonviolent crimes diagnosed with a significant mental illness. The BHTC grant includes funding for a BHTC coordinator/service facilitator, team training, a data management system, incentive and monitoring tools, supportive employment services, and evaluation services. The goals are to improve participants' mental health, quality of life, and increase public safety. Some objectives include achievement of educational and/or employment goals, stable housing, improved relationships, adherence to the treatment plan, decreased law enforcement contacts, and no new criminal charges or probation violations resulting in revocation. It passed the Human Services Committee tonight unanimously.
Thank you, Supervisor Holman. Supervisor Molinaro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will support the resolution this evening, but I asked a couple of questions in committee, primarily based on my lack of knowledge, specific knowledge of the way in which these, what I refer to, not to be considered a negative term, but boutique courts, if you will. What troubles me, and the answers were provided, I think the information I received was solid, and at the end of the day, I supported the resolution. What I'm going to say this evening, and I'm going to urge this board to take the same tact, because I'm not the only one who has asked for it. When the presentation was made for this particular resolution, it was pointed out to us that these grants and these specific courts are evidence-based outcome driven. Yet not one bit of factual evidence-based information was provided to the Finance Committee. I trust not one bit was provided this evening to the Human Services Committee. The chairman of the committee, Rose, asked specifically about the drug court, I believe, which has been operational now for 2 years. And the response, as it always is, and I don't know if the director is here, so this isn't specific to this department, this issue. It is general. The response we got is the response we always get. We'd be happy to provide that information. One thing we have in this county is a group of individuals who are happy to provide whatever we ask for. Yet it doesn't ever seem to come forward. The sheriff brings, and I brought this up in the Finance Committee a while ago, every time he brings this recurring resolution, whether it be through the, for the traffic interdiction, whether it be for the alcohol interdiction, whatever the case is, these are reoccurring grants that come forward every year, yet the backup and the supporting documentation from the year before isn't there. So why is it we have to continually ask when they're brought forward? If it's evidence-based, they had to have put the grant and the request together based on that evidence. They must have the documentation somewhere. So I will not support another resolution that comes forward in the form of a grant or any other special program similar to what we're approving this evening, and I urge this board and the committees to do the same thing. Don't bring it to this board. Make it happen at the committee. If in fact the information is so readily available that they'll get it for us when we ask, then it should be part of the initial proposal, initial resolution that comes forward. 2 years that court has been operational. And I don't recall, and I think the chairman of the committee again supported this last Thursday, we have yet to see report 1 at the Finance Committee. And we ask, and we ask, and we ask. So, if it's evidence-based, I want to see the evidence. And this board, we've had resolutions on the floor before, they've supported that, right? Can't support this resolution, there's no facts behind it. Then how on earth are we supporting this? I'll go along with it this evening. I will not support another one going forward, and I ask the chairman of the committees to be diligent about getting the information that we are routinely promised to receive, and we don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Supervisor Hallman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things I probably should have added. First of all, much of what we do in human services is primarily state and federal. And there's usually these things have been around for decades. Sometimes not, but usually they've been around for decades. And so that means there's a lot of research available about them, particularly online. If you just put it into Google, something almost always pops up. One of the first things I learned in being here was the importance of doing good research as a county supervisor. That was the most important R word, was research. So I decided to put this into Google and see what I could find. So I found a 2007 through 2010 evaluation report dated December of 2011 from the UW Population and Health Institute, a collaboration of the Wisconsin Office of Justice Assistance, the Wisconsin Department of Corrections, and the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. It covers all of our treatment alternatives and diversion programs, everything from evidence-based practices for correctional interventions, for substance abuse treatment, for case management, for drug courts, evidence-based practices for the judiciary, evidence-based practices for criminal risk and needs assessment. Projects provide comprehensive holistic treatment, eliminate or reduce use of alcohol or other drugs, improve mental health, facilitate gainful employment or enhance education training, provide stable housing, and it goes on and on and on. And there are 42 different tables in here, and there's a list of figures, 12 different pages worth of figures here. It's a 150-page document, and it's available online. If someone would just put it into Google, it pops right up. I'll say that these courts are something that the National Association of Counties lobbied our federal legislators very hard on. Everyone seemed extraordinarily receptive on the Hill in D.C., and it's something that justices and judges all across this country and law enforcement really, really like. So if someone wants to take a look at it, it's right here. It's not hard to find. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Montemuro?
Supervisor Molinaro, I understand what you said, and I want you to know at the Human Services Committee meeting, we asked John Jansen to bring us data about the court and how it's progressing, so we see it in a year also, because you are correct. There's data behind these things, but it's nice for us to see that it's working. So I agree with Supervisor Holman, and also Supervisor Molinaro is correct. We should find out how these courts are doing.
Thank you, Supervisor Montemuro. Supervisor Rose?
The Finance Committee did request Laverne Jaros to appear before the committee within 6 months to report on the success or progress of both the Veterans Court as well as the Drug Court and this Mental Health Treatment Court if it passes this evening. She promised that she would. It will be on our September agenda, and Dave Gersten is here, and I would ask that he place that on our September agenda. I'd encourage your attendance for its review. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Decker?
I would just like to comment, since Supervisor Molinaro discussed outcomes, I would advise any committee member or board member that is looking at these grants to also look at the RFPs and the proposals that go along with the RFPs. I asked the director for the RFP for this grant, and I did ask him for every grant that comes up. I would like to see the RFP and the proposal to see before we spend the money,
God bless you.
expecting outcomes, to see where we're spending that money. So Supervisor Molinaro is correct in saying I want to see outcomes, because I do too, but I also want to see before we spend that money, where we're spending that money. And I think that's another step that we as County Board Supervisors should also do, is watch where that money is being spent before we actually spend it. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no more lights, this is a budget modification, so we will have a roll call and need 2/3 vote. Resolution 101 passes 23 to nothing.
Resolution 102 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding regular cabaret license for Jetty's Bar. Esposito, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Montemiro, yes. Noble, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 102.
Resolution 102 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Ron Johnson. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. This is a resolution for, from a probationary cabaret license to a regular cabaret license. Jetty's Bar, I believe it is 1660 240th Ave, Brighton, Wisconsin. The Sheriff's Department recommended approval. Captain Waker, Field Operations, said there was no problems with the bar. They've complied as they needed to, so I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 102 passes.
Resolution 103 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding regular cabaret license for Kickstand LLC. Esposito, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Arrington, yes. Anita Johnson, yes. Montemiro, yes. Noble, yes.
Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 103.
Resolution 103 has been moved by Supervisor Esposito, seconded by Supervisor Boyd Frederick. Supervisor Esposito.
Thank you. Again, this is a probationary cabaret license to a regular cabaret license for Kickstand LLC. Address is 9622 Camp Lake Road, Camp Lake, Wisconsin. There did seem to be a few issues with this establishment, mainly due to not getting an outside band or band permit to operate outside. The owner did go do that. Since then, there hasn't been any problems. Captain Weichert signed off on this. I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Esposito. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 103 passes.
Resolution 104 from Public Works Facilities Committee, a resolution to approve the appointment of Lieutenant Thomas A. Padoka Sr. to the Kenosha County Traffic Safety Commission. Elverman, yes. Noble, yes. Dodge, yes. Nudo, excused. Skalitsky, yes.
Supervisor Elverman.
Move Resolution 104.
Resolution 104 has been moved by Supervisor Elverman, seconded by Supervisor Dodge. Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We always strive to have a well-rounded group of people on all of our commissions and committees, and the Public Safety Commission, Traffic Safety Commission is one of those. We did an interview of Lieutenant Padukas. We also asked some of the first most important question is, can you make your meetings? Will your staff and your bosses let you attend? Is your timing work? Because many times that doesn't work for these people. We've been assured that that will all work. He will round out our commission. If you look at the dates on this, I hadn't seen the actual closing dates. You're looking at about a 9-day term of office here, and then we're going to be looking at this all over again. That is just the way this worked out on the timing of the commission. I guess it's maybe more than 9 days, but not a whole lot more. And then we'll be back at this again. But at this point, so that we can fill this position, I would ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Seeing no lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 104 passes.
Resolution 105 from Public Works Facility Committee, a resolution to apply for a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant to fund removal of invasive species from 64 acres of Petrifying Springs Parks. Public Works, Elverman, yes. Noble, yes. Dodge, yes. Nudo, excused. Skalitsky, yes. Finance Admin, Rose, yes. Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, excused. Kohlmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, yes.
Supervisor Elverman.
Move Resolution 105.
Resolution 105 has been moved by Supervisor Alverman, seconded by Supervisor Skalitsky. Supervisor Alverman?
What we're asking for here is the permission to apply for a grant to remove invasive species from pets. If you look at the 5-star grant program, this is one of the programs that we used very successfully through Mr. Rudy, who I believe is here, on all the work we did at pets and the dam removal. What we're asking for here is the permission to apply for a grant. If it is accepted, we'll come back, or I mean, if we're approved, we'll come back and ask naturally for the permission to accept the grant. $25,000 would be the amount of the grant, and the other 50% or $25,000 would come from Parkland Development Funds. So this is not accepting anything at this point, giving Mr. Rudy the ability to apply.
Thank you, Supervisor Alverman. Supervisor Decker?
Just one quick question to Mr. Rudy. What invasive species is this grant for to remove?
Mr. Rudy, what invasive species is this grant going for?
Thank you very much.
Did everybody hear that, or should I make them go to the mic? All good? I read it. I got it. That's very good. Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no more lights. Oh, never mind. There is a light. Supervisor Hallman?
Through the chair to the gentleman from Parks, how much are we expecting to remove with this money exactly?
64 acres.
How many plants is that? We've made such a big deal about
Who are you
outcomes. We
asking,
should know.
Supervisor Alverman or Mr. Rudy?
Mr. Rudy, if he could.
Mr. Rudy?
I just want to make sure, since we're so serious about our outcomes. Thank you.
Okay, all right, enough. Enough. That's enough. Okay, seeing no more lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution 105 is passed.
106 from Public Work Facility Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to accept grant funding for the purposes of having an emerald ash borer management plan developed for Petrifying Springs and Fox River Parks. Elverman, yes. Noble, yes. Dodge, yes. Nudo, excused. Skalitsky, yes. Rose, yes. Frederick, yes. O'Day, yes. Grady, yes. Colmeyer, yes. Kubicki, yes. Molinaro, yes.
Supervisor Alverman.
I'd move Resolution 106.
Resolution 106 has been moved by Supervisor Alverman, seconded by Supervisor Noble. Supervisor Alverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. I reported on this possibly at our last meeting or the meeting before, that we were applying for this grant it's an urban forestry grant. We received the grant. Again, this was for $25,000. $12,500 will be from the Kenosha County match, which again comes from our Parkland Development Fund. We, as well as everyone else in the state of Wisconsin, have a problem, either current or future, with the emerald ash borer. This is a grant, and this is a program that we need in place in order to apply and receive further funds to combat the emerald ash borer in Kenosha County. So I urge your approval of acceptance to this grant. I have no idea how many trees this will affect. This will, however, affect, in my business, it's something we've been following for about 14 years, and it has, it's stripped the state of Michigan, it's stripped Ohio, most of the eastern states, moved into Wisconsin, Illinois now, and it's a major problem. So this is serious. The $12,500 is going to be well spent money. ask for your approval.
Thank you, Supervisor Elverman. Supervisor Decker.
I don't care how many trees this is gonna fix. My question is, have we found emerald ash borers in the county parks yet, or is this preventative?
No,
To whoever?
yes, we have.
Okay. In both these two parks, or you're not,
No, we have found emerald ash borer in Kenosha County.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no more lights, this is a budget modification. Roll call, please.
Just that. We quit planting them about 6 years ago.
Resolution 106 passes 23-0. Who said that? Supervisor Molinaro.
Thank you. I would ask, I don't know what the protocol is in terms of when we send resolutions. Resolution 90 is referenced on the final further be resolved that's going to be sent to a number of locations. Do we send the vote total with that?
We can, yes.
Yeah, if we do, I'd certainly believe in this case, I'd like to have that done.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Molinaro. Continue, please.
Claim 17 from Vicki Lynn Hine, vehicle damage.
Refer to the Corporation Council.
Approval of the February 20th, 2013 minutes by Supervisor Boyd Frederick.
To the February 20th meeting of the County Board and the Committee of the Whole.
It's been moved by Supervisor Boyd Frederick to approve the minutes, seconded by Supervisor Decker. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are passed. It's been moved to adjourn by Supervisor Decker, seconded by Supervisor Esposito. All those in favor? Any opposed?